Alright, brother. I'm gonna try to help you out and see if it is an equipment issue or a hookup issue. Now, for let me pull up your pictures real quick over here. Alright, so on your pictures, imagine this is your heat sink, because this is more or less the heat sink goes on one side and heat sink goes on the other side. This is a TEC plate. I'm going to eventually make a dehumidifier myself, for a custom job for this, and I'll document the process and stuff like that. But for yours, okay? So now on yours, you have two plates like I have on my refrigerator, right? And then this middle cable would just connect, and then another plate, would be over here and it would just run. But for simplistic sake, right, just imagine this is your whole setup, and then you have your hot and your negative, okay? Then you have your fan. Now I get that this, I would have been looking for a 2-wire fan, but I'm using all mine. This is a 3-wire fan because it's just a variable adjust, right? So this yellow wire would not get hooked up, and I would just hook up the red and the black wire, and that would give that the full voltage from your power supply. Right now, imagine this battery as your plug that you would plug into the wall. You're going to plug it into 115, 110, whatever, and it's going to convert that to 12 volt DC or some form of DC depending on the power supply. I think you have a picture of your power supply in one of these pictures because I asked for it. Um, I don't know. Oh, there it is right there. So your center pin is going to be your hot, is your red, and the outside pin on that is going to be your black pin. Now, your power supply is 12 volt, 3.5 amp. So you should be able to hook up this fine, to be honest. How I'm going to tell you how to hook it up. Sorry, I'm just scrolling through some pictures real quick before I keep explaining. Okay, now on your one of your pictures, you have your TEC with the case ripped apart, right? So you'd have your fan, upside down, this right here. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to take the red that you have taped up, right? And you're going to marry that up with the red on the fan, okay? Then you're going to take your red from your power supply, right? So imagine that's coming from here, your little plug that you go in the wall, right? And you're gonna take the center pin, right? According to your power supply, it says it's your red, and you're gonna put it right like that, right? So you have your TEG hooked to it, or your TEC hooked to it, your fan red hooked to it, and then the power cable, right? Now I see you have some plug connectors. It looks like I don't use those. I use I'm gonna show you real quick. I use fuck. I don't know where I put them. I put the environmental splices in my connections, right? So they start a little bit bigger than this, and you can heat them up with a heat gun or a lighter, but there's a little bit of solder that melts in between the wires, and then this keeps all the moisture out of it. So on yours, if you have, like, I use a lot of copper wire for most of my shit. So when I hook it to this stuff that's not tinned and it's just aluminum, um, there will be a little bit of oxidization if you don't keep moisture off of it. So you can tin them both, or and over a long time, the metal dissimilarities will cause oxidization, like way, way, way down the road. But if you do it right, you won't have to worry about it. The open connections like you have in a refrigerator situation, it might cause you issues down the road, just from surface contact. Think of it like your car when you got that nasty shit that grows over your car battery. You might see it in pictures or whatever. That's the same, more or less the same thing. You're having some oxidation from some dissimilar metals when electricity is going through it, and it causes that corrosion to go on. Same thing can happen in this stuff, and since this is such thin wire, you might end up breaking it. But back to the wiring, okay? So you're more or less, you're gonna run these, the TEC and the fan in parallel. So you're literally gonna match up the black wire and the black wire, and don't just hook them up like this, because then you gotta hook up the power supply, right? You gotta pigtail them, is what they call it. So you'd put two together in one side of the butt splice, and then you'd put your hot in on the other side of the butt splice. All right, so you'd have your two reds, and then you'd have your power supply in, then you'd have your two blacks, and then you'd put your black in, and then boom. Now, if your fan is turning on and your plate isn't getting cold on one side or the other, the plate could be bad. So what you want to do is just take the plate aspect of it, your two heat sinks, right? And the two connections, right? And you're just gonna hook that up to your power supply. Now, your power supply is rated for both of those in series. If you were to just take, most of these aren't rated for 12 volts, but if you take two of them in series, it'll run fine. If you were to just take one plate and hook it up to 12 volts, you'll burn it up. Um, but for the dehumidifier you're using, it's two plates back to back and they're in series. So it more or less uses the voltage accordingly. One side of the plate will get hot, one side of the plate will get cold. Now, when I was testing mine, to make sure that it was good, because I was using an adjustable rheostat for this, I would test just putting my hands on the cold side or the hot side of the aluminum heat sinks that you have. You'll be able to see if it's warm, because it won't get super hot or super cold real quick. Um, but it'll definitely start temperature changing relatively apparently. Like it's not a huge temperature swing, but you should notice it.